Okay, so I thought it would be fun to do a little Reddit recon on how people find meaning at work. And basically, if people like their job or how they like their job when their job sucks. Because we don't want you to hate your job. We recognize there's a lot of people who do. And so here is some advice from our friends at Reddit. And I thought I would read it to you guys and see if you think this is valid advice. So the question is, how do you find meaning? How do you find joy at your job? Let's start with Hidden Jim. He said, the best advice I could give on how to like your job: stay away from people that have negative things to say about the company. At least for the first 3 months. You can make your own judgments, but I found that a lot of it is a lot more if you're not having the negatives pointed out every single day. What do you guys think about this?
I mean, yeah, I don't want to hang out with negative people at work or at home or wherever. So they just kind of bring you down. I feel like it's good advice for everyone at all times. Stay away from the negative people.
So I'm not going to push back. I agree. One of the strengths theories, though, so like if you have a maximizer on your team, maximizers tend to have kind of a critical tone to their feedback sometimes because they always are obsessed with something getting better. So then they get kind of tagged as that negative person, right?
You said critical, but I think what you meant is powerful, encourage.
Yes.
Yes. I'm a maximizer, so that goes
I am
a
too.
lot.
So I'm like,
I am not a
and I can be
maximizer.
negative at some points, but I have to learn to reframe some of my thoughts of negativity.
That's fair. So you might let somebody know as they're new to the team, hey, here are areas for improvement, which isn't necessarily the worst, but probably as a new person, you have to be careful what you allow to influence your filter as far as what you see in the company.
I'm going to assume the person on Reddit wasn't necessarily talking about someone who's maximizing opportunities for improvement and just a negative and kind of mean-spirited.
Well, I guess what I'm trying to call out is like when someone goes to work and they present negative ideation, negative thoughts, they are critical. It's typically because there's some type of injustice that they want to see made restored, right? So if I'm looking at something from like, it could be better, it can sound super critical. If I'm thinking from the strength of restorative, I'm thinking about troubleshooting and fixing something, which can also be perceived as negative. So also, a lot of my colleagues have positivity in their top 5 strengths, which means they only want to see the bright side of things. Yeah. So I don't know, that's where the Reddit comment, I'm kind of like, okay, well, what's the why?
It seems like maybe Hidden Jim has some positivity. Okay, let's go to the next one. This is from the Pancake War. They said, so remember the question is how to like your job. This person said, don't. It's a job. You do it to get money so you can use that money to do things you enjoy. A little cynical. What do we think?
Well, for me, I feel like that's a common perspective I feel like people have because they've never experienced a leader or a position that's helped them feel empowered, help lead them or mentor them, and often has made them feel also inferior. But sometimes it's a script that gets flipped, and sometimes people go in and they don't do anything that's positive or encouraging for a leader, and so that leader is not really motivated to help them or mentor them or grow them, and it can become this vicious cycle that comes down. But for the most part, I feel like that's not a fair assessment. You know, there are lots of companies that don't really treat their people well. But there are plenty of companies, working here, we're treated extremely well and we're given value and a lot of things that we do. And so when Sunday comes around, I look forward to Monday mornings. I don't hate them. And I feel like that's the goal we should all be trying to achieve as a leader or some type of manager within the company.
Sure, because you've found a way to have meaning here and to find meaning here. And that can come from as simple a place as connecting with one person every single day and making them smile. Like that's a major way to find meaning at work. Mm-hmm. Or I know here we have a lot of philanthropy opportunities, and man, giving back is like one of the best ways we can find meaning at work, which we'll talk about here in a second. Yeah. But yeah, any thoughts on this one?
Well, so for 10 years, I practiced career coaching with people. Mm-hmm. And one of the things I'd always ask people is, share an example when time is flying by and what you're doing, you're just so in the zone that you look back up and you're like, wow, the whole day passed because you're in that sweet spot zone of work, right? And so that comment for me kind of sparked 2 thoughts. One, people can have kind of this transactional thing. So like I think of like remote workforces, right? It's like, hey, company hires a remote worker, they get the job done, and then they expect a certain outcome. So I can see where the narrative is like, it's just work.
Sure.
But then when you're in that sweet spot where you're like at a company where you're like, I feel like I'm invested in all the time, then you're hitting that I'm in the zone, I'm working, I'm loving what I'm doing, that's a totally different work experience.
Yeah, absolutely.
So the latter is what I would hope a lot of people can find at work, but discovering that is obviously a challenge.
That's a good call out. Like there's a big difference between what is meaningful and what is transactional. And your mentality is going to make a big difference. The environment is going to make a big difference. But I think there are ways that we can get to that meaningful place. All right, let's read one more. This person said, Foxword, meaningful jobs are like winning lottery tickets. You might hear about them, but you'll never see one in person. I think we don't think this is true. Or have you had experiences with jobs where you felt like this was true?
Well, I mean, I've certainly had, I think we all have had jobs where we felt like it was true, but the idea that you would never experience one, I've had multiple. And I worked at multiple places that have won the award of best place to work in the whole city for multiple years in a row. And I'd like to feel like I played a part in that as much as leadership. And then when I got to be in leadership, that also the people under me helped play a part in that as well.
So what practically set those places apart?
So I think you've got to give your people a sense of purpose. Here at TCW Global, for instance, we allow our team to volunteer up to 16 hours a year to go out, and that's during the workday. And a lot of companies are like, oh, we can't give up our team 16 hours during the week where they're not working, but we see value in that because not only do our people go out and volunteer, but they feel encouraged, they feel motivated, they feel excited. It's exactly the opposite of what that person just said. You can't find a job like that. Well, that's not the case here. And people feel empowered and they feel motivated and they feel like there's purpose and they're doing work that matters. And so then when you reach your 16 hours, we actually even give you an extra paid day off as a result. And so people are motivated, it's fun, they come in and they say, hey, TCW cares about me, it cares about the community, it's a great place to work, I love this place. And I honestly don't know why more companies don't take this stance because it's so empowering to the team and it helps drive engagement up. You know, when you say, hey, I'm going to make my people work New Year's Eve or Christmas Eve late, or when I'm not going to allow them to go help in the community, what happens is that drives engagement down. So your people will be there. They just won't be working that hard.
Those are just such great thoughts, absolutely. And just to clarify for anybody listening, TCW Global and iAlign are partner companies. And so that applies to iAlign as well. And we're so grateful for it. I find meaning at work every single day because I know I'm a part of a company that prioritizes giving back. And I think if more people understood that it's not transactional, it's not just your time spent for the money earned, but it's how much you can make an impact in the world by doing your job, that would change everything. What about you, Jered? What do you do to find meaning at work?
Well, so one of the things that we have found is a really helpful intervention at a lot of companies is really focusing on what's right with your people. And one of the ways we do that is making sure that all of our employees know what their top strengths are. So if you think about, like, for example, my top strength is futuristic. If I can't be in a job where I can't dream about something really cool and new and innovative, I'm probably not going to like that job. It's not going to bring me a lot of purpose and meaning. Maximizer, I love being able to be like, hey, this is great, and then you level something up. So rewarding to me. And then I'll share one example of, let's go with Woo, winning others over. When I'm at a place where I'm like, look at all these people who could be new friends and I want to get to know them and all of that type of thing, I'm going to love that environment. So being a remote worker where Woo can't be practiced and with people may not be a good fit for me, right? So we always love setting a foundation of who am I, what are my strengths, what can I contribute to this organization? And I love that about iAlign and TCW Global's partnership.
Yeah, so what you're saying is when people know their strengths and when their bosses know their strengths and can work with them to create an environment that is conducive to their strengths, that they can actually find meaning through that.
Absolutely.
Which is incredible. And that is what iAlign does, right? It incorporates strengths into this software. You want to explain a little bit more about that?
Yeah, so basically as you're creating goals and targets for yourself, because every employee knows what their top strengths are, they can begin to craft a narrative around what they want to work on from a strengths perspective, right? So it's one of those things if your boss does a top-down target to you and you're like, okay, I'm supposed to do that, but how can you leverage your strengths to make that a reality or to achieve whatever you're working on? So I do love that about iAlign. The other thing that is really interesting is with we're exploring my purpose. And my purpose is this new assessment that we're creating, and it helps to measure drivers of purpose is what we're calling them. And so different things when you show up at work really do, being like, I will find the most meaning at work if these things are present, and we're trying to help people define that. It's still in beta, but you can go and take the assessment if you find yourself interested in learning more.
That's awesome. Here's what I want us to take away, what I want you to take away, is that purpose is possible at work. It's not only just possible, but it is something that we strongly believe you can find. We're creating tools to help you find it. And we hope that you can find a job that feels meaningful to you, and you can take the steps that you need to find meaning at work so that you don't end up, no offense to the Reddit community, but feeling like it's impossible to find joy in your job and complaining about it, because we believe there are ways, and I've definitely been there before, I know you have been there before, but we believe that there are ways for you to find meaning and purpose.